Today's reading comes from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 18, from verse 15 to 20. If your brother or sister sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If you are listened to, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If that person refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Good morning and welcome. It is great to have you all with us this morning. As Jessica mentioned, my name's Charlie. I am one of the ministers here. Andy, our other minister, is at the Black Deer Festival this weekend. He has a Stetson, would you believe it or not? Yeah, some of you have seen the photographs. Anyway, it's a country music festival just down the road. Andy is there this weekend. But thank you for choosing to be with us this morning. It is great to have you with us. We are working our way through Matthew's Gospel. We've been doing it for about 30 years. We have about another 70 to go. We have reached Matthew 18. As Shirley alluded to in her prayers, the world is full of conflict at the moment. There are wars raging on almost every continent. Some of them we thought and hoped and prayed we would never see again have reared their heads. Old conflicts have come back. And then we look at the national picture. There is not a country in the world at the moment that is not tearing itself apart over left and right immigration politics. Look across Europe, the political scene. And then I know for some of us, there's conflict at work. Sometimes in our workplace, that is a place of conflict. And I know for others, sadly, it can be in the home. Marriages are not always easy. They can go through difficult times. And many of us do not handle conflict well. We've built up bad patterns over the years. We've got bad habits. And it's such an important skill, and yet it's never taught to us how to handle conflict well. And then I think if you add to that, there is the exacerbating, polarizing effect of social media. The silos that it puts us in. Just in case it hasn't ever occurred to you, social media is never a good place to work out your conflicts. It just isn't. Don't do it. We always need to talk with people, not about them. I came across this quote. The irony that it was from social media is not entirely lost on me. But, I mean, when you hear Morgan Freeman's voice, he just sounds like God. So I'm going to give it the same authority, to be honest. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you. We need to relearn that in our society. So today, in the light of the passage that we've been reading from Matthew 18, we're going to be thinking a little bit about conflict resolution. And when I started thinking about this topic, it reminded me of the marriage preparation course. So if you were going to get married in this church, then I would do some sessions with you looking at using the Holy Trinity Brompton marriage course. And there's a week that you do on conflict in relationships. And they suggest there are 2 types of people in every relationship. There are rhinos and there are hedgehogs. How do you or your partner typically respond when you feel hurt and angry? Are you a rhino or are you a hedgehog? Here's some features that might help you work that out. Rhinos overreact and go on the... But they don't point, please. Just at this point, just keep the dialogue internal, okay? Rhinos overreact and go on the attack. They might retaliate by becoming confrontational, say things that I later regret, demand we immediately discuss an issue, or bring up a past hurt not related to the issue. Hedgehogs fail to admit that I'm hurt or angry or hurt. Give my partner the silent treatment. Try to ignore my feelings, withdraw or shut down emotionally. Withhold physical affection. Which one are you? Which one is your partner? What's interesting is rhinos often marry hedgehogs. So, firstly, for the hedgehogs in the room. Hedgehogs, you need to hear this. Not all conflict is bad. Patrick Lencioni's seminal book on leadership from a few years ago, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. His second dysfunction of a team is an unwillingness to face and deal with conflict in a healthy way. Now, I have a confession for you. I am a hedgehog. I'm a hedgehog who has slowly learnt the value of confrontation the hard way by nearly 3 decades of just trying to paper over the cracks and finding that that does not work. I am still a work in progress, but I'm learning that not all confrontation is bad. You know, you can... If you're in a meeting and you're disagreeing about something, make the thing you're disagreeing about the subject. Talk about the subject, not the person. Now, if we're fighting for the excellence of a project that I'm working on, then that's an argument I'm willing to lose. Because I want the best. But so often when we're in confrontations, we attack the person and not the argument in the room. The marriage course again suggests that you think about the subject it is that you're disagreeing with, and you, as it were, take it from between you and place it on the table in front of you. And then the two of you sit side by side and you look at that problem that you're trying to solve. So it's not something that's between you, it is something that is before both of you. I have to say, I'm very grateful for the trustees that we have in this church. Our trustees' meetings are good examples of this, I think. We disagree robustly sometimes, but it is in the pursuit of doing the best that we can, and it is out of a strong relationship and care for one another. So we always leave as friends, but we might have disagreed about something, and I'm discovering that's healthy if you want the best out of the people in the room. So, hedgehogs, not all conflict is bad. Rhinos, sometimes you need to learn to don't sweat the small stuff. In our reading today, we read, if your brother or sister sins against you. A sin contains actual harm and hurt. It's not just if they disagree with you. It's not if someone disagrees with you. It's if they've hurt or harmed you. Who here suffers with road rage? Yeah. That's one area in life where I think I am genuinely learning to not sweat the small stuff. You know what it is? If you live in Chipstead, you'll know exactly what I mean. Just trying to get through Chipstead during the school run. You have to give way, you have to you have to work with the other. And then two of you go at the same time because you've seen a gap. And it's the other driver that is at fault. And you can see they're boiling, they're going red in the face. I've just gradually over the years learned to, you know what, sorry, have a good day. Let them have the heart attack. Don't sweat the small stuff. Rhinos, not every argument needs to be had there and then. Sadly, this passage has been used over the years has been abused, shall we say. It is designed to de-escalate a situation, not escalate it. It offers us 3 steps. At the bottom, if you are out of relationship with someone, go alone. If you're listened to, you've regained that one. Then there is a second step. Take 2 witnesses with you. And then there is a final step. Take it to the church. The purpose of Matthew 18 is to de-escalate conflict. Because so often we take our grievances, whether it's in work or in church, straight to the top. And we want justice. We want something done about this. And sadly, the church has used this passage to lord it over people in the past. Think of the shunning practices of the Anabaptists or the excommunication of the Catholics. I've only ever once threatened to excommunicate somebody from church. That was when Josh ordered pineapple on pizza for the youth group. No greater offence in my mind. Do you remember last week's sermon? That is the context for this passage. Whoever becomes humble like this child is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. This is not about power over people. If, or we might say when, your brother or sister sins against you, go and point out the fault when the 2 of you are alone. If you are listened to, you have regained that one. The first instruction in Matthew 18 for dealing with conflict is go. And it's go now. Deal with it straight away. Don't wait. You've sometimes perhaps heard the phrase, time heals. I'm not sure that's always true. Let's just imagine you were stabbed in the stomach. Time will heal. That's all right, I'll just wait it out, it'll be fine. No, some things need addressing. And the sooner you deal with them, the better and quicker and easier it will be. Look at the values on our walls. You'll read the words, forgive swiftly. Deal with stuff quickly. Go now. We read in Matthew 5 a few months ago or years ago now. When you're offering your gift at the altar, when you're in church, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come back and offer your gift. Jesus is saying it is more important than being in worship. If you're in worship and you realize that actually you're out of relationship with somebody who is precious and important to you or part of this community, it is more important that you get up and leave and go and sort that relationship out than you stay here and see through the rest of the worship service. I remember Rick Warren preaching a sermon about this at one stage in a student campus, and about a third of the congregation at that point got up and walked out. No one's moved yet. The second instruction, first is go now. Go swiftly. The second is go alone. It would be great, wouldn't it, if Jesus says, if someone sins against you, you go gather a small group of mates around you and you moan about them. And you let all of your mates know exactly what's wrong and exactly what they've done, and then you rubbish them in the pub that evening. No. Jesus' instruction is go and go alone. Just between you and them. Have the conversation with them. Sort it out between the two of you. Don't gossip about it. Don't take it to the next house group and pray about it out loud, which is really just gossiping in disguise sometimes. Go sort it out. But go in humility. Matthew 7 says this, "Do you see the speck? You see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but you do not notice the log in your own eye. You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly the speck out of your neighbor's eye." When you go to confront them, when you go to talk to them out, go in humility. Prepared to listen to what they have to say as well as tell them what you think. We all have blind spots. Blind spots are not our faults. Our faults are things we know about. Blind spots are things that by definition we don't know about because they're blind, because we're blind to them. And this is a really important area to practice this teaching. Go talk with that person. Let them know that they've hurt you, that they've harmed you. But also be prepared to listen in humility to perhaps the part that you played in the process. So first of all, go alone. And then if you are listened to, you've regained that one. 90% of all of the conflicts that happen probably in the life of a church, but in most organizations, would be dealt with if we did that and did that well. It really would. Most of them can be dealt with in this way. But if you're not listened to, take one or two others along with you so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. Go now, go alone, but if that doesn't work, then the next step is to go back with others, with witnesses, with somebody who can help, perhaps mediate in the conversation. Listen to what is being said by both parties, reflect back. Friends, this is an area where perhaps in marriages, if there is a struggle going on between the two of you, having a third person to talk to and help facilitate that conversation is so massively helpful. Can I encourage you to go engage in that conversation? There are lots of organizations that offer it. If you don't know where to find one, come talk to me. I can point you in the right direction. Take others so that they can bear witness to but mediate. Jesus isn't coming up with this on his own. It's from Deuteronomy 19, verse 15, where in the Old Testament, in the Jewish consciousness, there was already this idea that a single witness shall not suffice to convict a person of a crime or wrongdoing in connection with any offence that might have been committed. Only the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses shall a charge be sustained. If you can't sort it out between you, involve others, involve elders, involve people you trust to help work out that relationship. And then finally, and only then, if the problem has not been resolved, take it to the management. Okay, we're in a church context here. Take it to the church elders or the church leadership. But actually in any context. Sometimes if we're grieved at work, we go straight into the grievance procedure, straight into the process, straight to our boss. This is the last step in a process. If that person refuses to listen to them, then tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, then let such a one be to you as a Gentile or tax collector. Just one bit of pastoral advice. I think when you've done that, when you've exhausted the avenues and you've taken it to the church, for you personally, can I suggest you do all that is within you to let it go? You will have played your part by that step in the process. Romans 12:18 says this: if it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. That is good advice. As far as it depends on you. It is beholden upon you to do all you can to sort that relationship out. But sometimes there comes a point where actually you've got to say, I have done all that I can. And you need to let it go. And sometimes we need boundaries in place. Give me a moment. Don't know what I've done here. There we are. Sometimes the offence, the sin, to use Christian jargon, can be so serious that actually we just need to put boundaries in place. And there are occasions in a church where we have done that because it's necessary. Some people refuse or are unable to change, unwilling, unable to repent, to own the harm that they are causing. And then sometimes in that situation, we need to put boundaries in place. They know they are always welcome. We will always seek to include them, but with boundaries around that. Which is when Jesus says, you are to treat them like a tax collector or a Gentile. And how have we seen Jesus treating tax collectors and Gentiles up until now? With love. With the hope that they will be reconciled and reunited to God. That is the heart of this passage. It is always reconciliation. It is never retribution. The heart is always that they will be reconciled. But we do recognize sometimes that needs to come with boundaries and with appropriate expectations. You can be reconciled and at peace with your ex. That does not mean you have to remarry them. Go now, go alone, go with others, and then if necessary, take it up the chain and let it go. Because truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about anything you will ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 of you are gathered in my name, I am there among them. How many times have you heard that last sentence, where 2 or 3 gather in my name, I'm there among them? It's often cited at the beginning of worship, isn't it, for evidence that God is here. There are 2 or 3 here. So God is with us. The problem is, if you think through the full logic of that statement, it implies that if you're on your own, God is not with you. And that is not true. Where 2 or 3 gathered in my name, I am there amongst them, is in this context. It is in the context of church discipline, boundaries, reconciliation. It's where you have gathered to make a decision that is difficult and tough. God says, I am with you. I will be with you in the decision making. Friends, we are called to be peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. That does not mean avoiding. That does not mean appeasing. But it does mean we are called to become agents of reconciliation in a world that is full of conflict. Become a bridge builder, not a wall maker. And perhaps my second challenge to you today is, if somebody were to come to you and say that you hurt them, how would you respond? Reconciliation is hard, but it is at the heart of the gospel. And it is so important that we learn to do it well. And I hope today in Matthew 18, Jesus offers us a framework for doing it well, for sorting out the differences that come between us. Some of you will have noticed a glaring omission to my sermon. There was one subject that I completely avoided. Next week's reading starts with this. Well, then Peter came to him and said, Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? There is a piece of this puzzle. Reconciliation is always hard. But there is a piece of this puzzle that makes it, well, not easier, but is essential to the process. And that is forgiveness. And what it means to give and receive forgiveness. But friends, that is next week's sermon. And I've left that for Andy. So do come next week and hear the second half of this one. Let's pray together.